Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Network. I'm here with Shyla Nelson, who's with Election Justice USA. Election Justice USA has filed a lawsuit in federal court in Brooklyn against the election Department of Elections over a giant voter purge that's taking place all throughout New York. I've done some reporting on this, speaking with individuals affected. Shyla, tell me what the lawsuit claims and what the goal is when you hope to get a ruling.
First and foremost, Election Justice USA's lawsuit endeavors to file an emergency injunctive action, which, with a declaratory judgment, which effectively takes those voters who are genuine, legitimately registered voters who, for whatever reason, have been purged from the voter rolls to give them the opportunity to vote tomorrow. If it turns out that we would have to do so through an affidavit ballot or provisional ballot, we are asking that those ballots absolutely be counted. As you probably know, affidavit ballots or provisional ballots aren't necessarily counted, and we are asking that it be required that they be counted.
And the purge you're talking about is a lot of these voters who were registered Democrats are going to look at their registrations, and it's showing up independent, Republican, not affiliated. Is that what you've been finding?
We have found two primary classes of plaintiffs who we are defining in this case. The first is exactly that. These are registered Democratic voters who have a history of voting in the Democratic primary in New York over, in some cases, many years, who suddenly find themselves registered as not affiliated with any party. That's the exact language on the registration record, or Republican. In other words, they are fundamentally disqualified from voting in a closed primary tomorrow. The second class of plaintiffs that we have discovered are new voters who enrolled, registered to vote before the March 25th deadline, and find themselves also listed, they registered as Democrats, and they now find that they are listed in the voter rolls as not affiliated with any party, and then in parentheses independent, which again prevents them from voting in the Democratic primary tomorrow.
How many people are we talking? Because my understanding is you're finding thousands of people this has happened to.
We are getting reports hour by hour. It's been rather astonishing. We have over 300 substantiated reports. We did get the report earlier today that apparently 63,500 registered voters in Brooklyn were dropped from the voter roll between November and April. The scale of this is probably bigger than any of us know at this time. It is a developing situation. It's happening in New York, and it's happening elsewhere throughout the United States. Obviously, our focus right now in triage is the New York primary and the New York voters who deserve to vote tomorrow.
And getting down to the nitty gritty, do you think there's something nefarious going on here, or is this just a widespread, bureaucratic incompetence, technological incompetence? What do you think's behind this? Because at least anecdotally, the main people I'm hearing from are young voters.
Right. It's really tough to tell at this point. We're early in the game in terms of pulling together metadata analytics and trying to see where the patterns are, where the breakdowns of, various linkages to, the motor voter registrations. And really, it's a mystery. We're putting the puzzle pieces together as quickly as we can, hoping that we might be able to connect some dots and develop some causal chain that helps us understand where this problem originated. The scope of it, again, is broader than any of us could have realized. It is bigger than New York, as we know. We're seeing these issues pop up in California. There are reports today in Kentucky. We're hearing it in Wyoming and also in Pennsylvania. We know that there were huge issues in Arizona, of course. That was the catalyst that really brought our group together in the first place. So clearly there's some systemic problem and a breakdown in the transference of data and information. Where that's coming from, we just don't know, but we're determined to get as close to the bottom of that as we can.
In terms of the triage for New York primary tomorrow, obviously the goal is your emergency lawsuit will be ruled on in your favor before the primary. Do you have any idea from your lawyers if you might have something decided before the primary tomorrow?
We sincerely hope so. I think that there's a substantial amount of public pressure on this issue. A lot of awareness has been raised, thanks to you and the media who are helping to cover this story and these heartbreaking stories of plaintiffs like ours and voters who have been disenfranchised by this process. So I hope that our judicial system is listening and attentive to the needs of the American voters. I think that they deserve this opportunity tomorrow.
And I know this isn't part of the lawsuit, but New York has the earliest deadline to change party affiliation in the country. It was in October. Most people aren't paying attention in October for a primary in April. It also wasn't really communicated to most people that I've spoken with that October was the deadline. Do you know of any reason? Have you heard why New York is so early? Because it seems to me that is a really bureaucratic way of suppressing the vote.
I think it's a really important question as well, and I don't understand why there would be such a significant need for this enormous gap between that registration changing deadline and the primary happening as it is in April. We do address that in the language of the lawsuit, among a couple of other issues that appear to be making it very difficult for New Yorkers to vote. Plain and simple. That is a factor that we do believe is part of a larger series of symptoms of a problem in the process by which elections are conducted in the state.
Finally, do you think everything that's happening, Arizona, New York, you're talking California, hearing things in Pennsylvania and elsewhere, do you think there's going to be, this is the beginning of a large call to make every primary in the country open? Because I think the closed primary, the original concept of that, is so that the establishment people in the party could have more control and essentially not really have a Bernie Sanders type candidate surge.
I definitely think so and hope so, Jordan. I think Bernie Sanders' campaign and one of the most powerful legacies of Bernie's career throughout his career is that he shines a bare bulb, unfiltered gaze on the electoral process and the process of governing. This has been true from the beginning of his career. And I think that the enthusiasm that his campaign has received and the movement that has been sparked by his campaign is awakening the body politic in ways that it hasn't been perhaps in a generation or more. And as a result of that, more people are paying careful attention to the practices that go into deciding how we select our leaders. And in that, I think there will be an increased pressure to open primaries, to open and increase transparency and accountability in our election process. And I think that that is ultimately exactly what our democracy needs.